Have you ever heard the sound of freedom? Have you ever heard the sound of freedom?
You are listening to The Flip Side with Noah Filipiak, connecting the reality of the gospel to the grit of life. You can support the podcast at patreon.com/Noah Filipiak or at noahfilipiak.com/give.
What is up, Flip-eponymouses? Welcome to episode 22 of the Flip Side podcast. How was that? That felt pretty natural. Like if you were just listening to the show for the first time, you might think, yeah, let's do this. Wow, I'm a flip-eponymous now. This is real. Oh, we'll see. Give me your feedback. I don't know. I don't know how I feel yet. I maybe I'll get there, Jason. Maybe I will. Maybe I just have to talk it out a little bit. You know? So here's the thing. Like I just did. Talk it out and then go from there. I gave last episode the $1 challenge. Anytime I say the word like on this episode, you find the timestamp, send it in to me, and I will give you $1. I'll send you $1 via some electronic payment. What's funny is I've already said the word once, but this is gonna be tough because we're gonna need some kind of what's the word? Not a judge, an arbiter. I guess a judge. We're gonna need a judge because there are times when you say the word like, and it feels like it fits, and I don't even remember now. I can't quote you what I just said, but it felt like it fit, and so I hope that was my Noah's rant. Last episode 21, was how often people say like, and I hope I ruined your life the way my friend Mike ruined mine, that I hear it every time someone says it now, and I'm guilty of it. I'm trying to rid it from my vocabulary so I can be a better broadcaster. Again, using the word broadcasting loosely, but listen, and you will hear it all the time. When people use it for when someone said something, they'll say it a lot, and they'll also just say it at really random spots in between spaces where there should be no sound made. And yeah, so listen to me. I will be nervous now the entire episode, and I promise you I will not edit any out. I probably, if I say it again, I will get frustrated on the air. So that'll be fun. Yeah, I've ruined the podcast now. Speaking of ruining the podcast and wanting to be a better broadcaster, I created a survey, and I would like for you to fill it out. It is noahfilipiak.com/survey. Or if you can't figure out how to spell my last name, you can go to any of my social media outlets, any being Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I just started using Instagram, and I kind of like it, but I haven't figured out if I'm allowed to put my blog post on Instagram. I mean, I know I'm allowed. I just didn't say the word like, by the way. I wanted to. I was like, nope, not going to do it. Didn't do it. So I know I'm allowed legally to put them on there, but is that really what Instagram is for? I almost said it again just there and I didn't. I'm going to say that now every time. If you use Instagram, tell me this. If you use it for a long time, if I put blog posts on Instagram, if others put blog posts on Instagram, does that seem a little bit too in your face? Do you feel like, that's the proper use of the word like, do you feel like I'm selling you something? This is not what this is for. Because Instagram is for photos. It's not for promotion necessarily. Though people promote on Instagram. A friend of mine puts videos on there of he's a blacksmith and he makes knives. It's pretty cool. There's a huge following. Instagram is a part of that. I've just not been able to quite get a gut feel. I don't want to come across as slimy or pushy, where I could potentially put the featured image from the episode, which I typically have one that I use on my blog. I could use the featured image as my image, and then put the link to the podcast episode. I've done it once before, so I don't know. I don't know if that's good etiquette or not on Instagram. And so if you are an Instagram aficionado, let me know. All that to say, I have a survey, and I'd like for you to fill it out. It will take 4 minutes of your time. NoahFilipiak.com/survey. I'm gonna be real for 2 reasons. One, I want the podcast to be better. I'm a critical person. Sometimes that's good. Other times it's not. But I can handle it. I typically hear things, whatever it might be. It could be a podcast like this, and I think, man, that could be better. But they're not asking me how to make it better, so I'm not just going to write in some random email and rip somebody, hey, this is how your podcast could be better. So I'm inviting you, not to rip me. I mean, you can if you want, but I want this to be better. This is a ton of work. It's a ton of energy, and I'm frankly sort of second reason for the survey. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I love doing the podcast. I really enjoy it. You know, I'm a vulnerable, transparent person. I've talked about that in recent episodes. I'm going to continue to be vulnerable and transparent on the podcast about the podcast. I'm budgeting my time and trying to figure out if I should keep doing the podcast, if this is the best use of my time and resources. And so really need you to fill out the survey so that I can get some feedback on how to make the podcast better. And frankly, if I should keep doing the podcast. One thing that's asked on the survey is Patreon, and maybe you hate it when I talk about Patreon. Let me know on the survey. Patreon, we're at 7 Patreon supporters right now, and I'm not saying that that's the only reason to do the podcast or like an ultimatum, so that I owe somebody $1 right there. That was the wrong use of the word like. I'm going to make it really easy on you, but it's first come, first serve, so it's not the millions of listeners who listen, you're not all getting $1. I would go broke. But no, it's not $1 million. I think I could afford it if you if you all wrote in and told me. But yeah, you just email podcast@beyondthebattle.net and give me the timestamp, and I'll send you $1. So back to the survey, back to Patreon. So patreon.com/NoahFilipiak, you can support the podcast, and that's a question on the survey I want to know about. And it is going forward something I'm going to consider on if I will keep doing the podcast or not, only because of the other things I have to weigh my time on. And so, yeah, this isn't good listening, but you'll get over it. We'll get to some good stuff soon. I just want you to know where I'm at with the podcast. I want to continue. Right now, I'm at a every other week basis. If we get up to 20 Patreon supporters, we'll go to a weekly basis. So it's a good survey. I love that kind of data. I would love to hear from you. It's anonymous, so you can really just tell me like it is. And so please check that out, noahfilipiak.com/survey. I will also put it in the show notes of this episode. Speaking of signing up for things, we need some guys to sign up for the January 13th Beyond the Battle group. Go to beyondthebattle.net. If you are a guy, you'd like to grow stronger in your faith, you'd like to walk with me and my team through discovering more about your identity in Christ and how that can help you overcome really any type of sexual temptation. It's something we all face in this world, and man, it's super, super fruitful. It's crunch time. There's only a month left to get signed up for that group. We need some more people to fill the group out, so I'm going to push that until January 13th. So please sign up today, or if you're a pastor or leader and you have guys in your church that you think could benefit from this, please let them know, beyondthebattle.net. On Friday, so today's Monday, on Friday, I had gum surgery. You ever had gum surgery before? This is, I don't know the name of it, it's a gum graft, so I have recession in my teeth, my back teeth. They measure your gums, how far they've gone down. And if they go down too far, one, it becomes painful because your nerves are exposed, but you get more tooth decay, you can lose those teeth, all that kind of stuff. My mom had the gum recession surgery. My brother had the gum recession surgery. So I say that to say, I don't think it's because I'm a terrible brusher or have bad hygiene. I want you to know that. I feel, I don't want you, man, Noah would brush his teeth every once in a while, that'd probably help. I really blame my mom. It's her fault. It seems like it's genetic. She had it done, and then my brother and me. So thanks a lot, Mom. Appreciate that. But it's super painful. I had it done 6 or 7 years ago, and it didn't work. Awesome. So that was a waste of money and pain. Back when I was in Lansing, the place I went to, they cut gum tissue, out of the roof of your mouth, and then they move it over. They reattach it to your gum to cover up the recession, and then it's supposed to stick. And mine didn't stick. I don't know where it went, but it's kind of weird to think about. Where did it go? It's not like I spit it out one day. So yeah. So it's not there, and they checked my gums. They continue to check them, and what do you know? I need to have it again. So in Grand Rapids now, and the doctor here, not sure if it's because it's 7 years later or just a different doctor, but they don't use your own tissue. So that's pretty great. You don't have to get cut open on the roof of your mouth and have these 2 spots that have to heal. They use cadaver tissue. That's pretty great. Sweet. Yeah, baby. So now I have zombie gums to go along with my zombie knees. So I've had 3 ACL surgeries, my 3rd surgery. I didn't have any more patella tendon for them to take because they'd already taken both sides. So they used a cadaver. So at the age of 36, 37 in a few weeks, throw it in there. Like I said, if you want to throw any birthday presents in my way, more than welcome to. January 8th, Elvis Presley and I share a birthday. So almost 37, pushing 37. I'm becoming more and more of a zombie every year, it seems. I got zombie gums now. I will be getting another gum surgery in about 8 weeks because I have 2 more spots on the other side of my mouth that will be now filled with gum surgery. Mouth pain is a unique and special kind of pain. If you've never got to experience it, it is pretty incredible. So Friday, man, I was in rough shape Friday. Today I'm okay. I'm not allowed to brush my teeth in that spot, so I have carpet growing on my teeth right now. It's pretty great. It's pretty awesome. I have to eat soft foods and not chew on that side of my mouth. Don't tell my wife or my doctor this. Neither one of them listen to the podcast, so I'm safe. I'm safe with you, being vulnerable and transparent. I've eaten some non-soft foods. I'm pretty good at eating on the left side of my mouth. Some Doritos, some pizza. Questionable if pizza's soft or not. I went with it. Gluten-free pizza. Not the softest thing in the world, but we handled it. But yeah, the Doritos, I can't really live without Doritos. If you don't know me well, that's the truth. But you can break them into pieces and just kind of tuck them over to the left side of your mouth and crunch away, and just be careful that a little stray piece doesn't fly over to the other side. And we're making it. We're making it through. So I'm playing a little hurt today. Hopefully my chipmunk cheek doesn't interfere with the incredible broadcasting that is the Flip Side podcast. Speaking of incredible broadcasting and the survey, one question on there is about the length of the podcast. I hope you like how long these are. They're usually an hour and a half. I don't know. Maybe you hate that. You can tell me that on the survey. Today, though, here's the thing. It's probably going to be shorter because I have to leave to go to an appointment in less than an hour now. So about an hour total broadcast time. But if you're looking at your phone or your computer right now and it's an hour and a half episode, what that means is I didn't make it in time, and I had to cut and go to my meeting and finish at a later time. So we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. We next are going, let's do it. Let's get into the mailbag. Let's not get into the mailbag yet. I'm not ready. I got a few more stupid things I want to talk to you about. One is catching up on last episode. I told you about my daughter who's 8 years old. She believes in Santa Claus, and I've told her since she came out of the womb that Santa Claus is a lie. He's not real. He doesn't bring you any presents. Your parents bring you presents. I mean, seriously, why would I want my hard-earned money and the effort that my wife and I make, I should say our hard-earned money, and the effort that we make to buy presents for my kids, and then some made-up dude in a red suit gets all the credit for it? No thanks. I'll take the credit for giving my kids presents, right? And I always tell her Santa's not real. It used to be funny. Somehow along the way, she's fully convinced Santa Claus is real, and she gets seriously angry with me when I joke around about how he's not real, or I make sarcastic comments about how he's not real. So I don't make sarcastic comments anymore about how he's not real, but she will frequently try to get in an argument going with me by asking me if I believe in Santa Claus or not. Of course, the answer is no. I do not believe in Santa Claus, though I often will lie because I don't want to get into this argument with my 8-year-old, and then my 6-year-old chimes in as well. So the frequent conversation this year has went something like this. Daddy, because you don't believe in Santa Claus, you're not going to get any presents. To which I reply, good. I don't want any presents. I have everything I need. I'm happy and content. I don't need any more stuff. So she says, well, you're going to get coal for Christmas instead. To which I reply, good. I like coal. Bring it on, Santa. And she now then says, which is an interesting twist, that she wants my coal because she would want to put it in the snowman's face when she makes a snowman. So that has been the Santa Claus conversation at our house. We are continuing to do Elf on the Shelf. So far, so good, though she firmly believes Elf on the Shelf is real and has a factor in the Christmas presents she will get. But my favorite Elf on the Shelf I've done so far is putting the elf on the toilet seat and putting some chocolate chips next to the elf on the seat as well as in the toilet. Definitely my favorite. A good time this Christmas season, getting myself into trouble. I'm trying not to, but it's tending to happen on its own. Living in a house of 4 women, being quite outnumbered, the cat and I are the only males. You got to figure it's bound to happen. So, with that further update on nonsense, let's get into the mailbag.
Mail time. Mail time. Mail time. Mail's here.
So I got a fun email from John as I have been intensely debating whether to pick up a nickname for Flipside listeners. As I joked going into the episode today, will it be the Flipopotamuses? It's not going to be one of the many suggestions that were sent in by Jason and others. So John wrote Flipopotamuses, as if from the dictionary, noun, plural from English. And he does an etymological breakdown of the word. Flip, contraction of Philippiacs, with an apostrophe, like your mind, Philippiacs. So, we'll see. Jury's out. Jury's out on that one. Jury's out. I don't know. I need to figure out from a grammatician when is the appropriate and inappropriate. You know what? We need a high bar around here. We need a high bar of discipleship. So I think I'm guilty on that one. I think I'm guilty. All right, flip, contraction of Philippiacs, as if Philippiac is owning something. Flip, next part of the word, pop, contraction of popular. It's arguable, very arguable if this podcast is popular. ATA, common abbreviation of over the air. Muses, noun plural. Sources of inspiration. Makes sense to me. That was beautiful, John. So if you want to know what Flipopotamuses means, it means Philippiacs, popular, over the air, sources of inspiration. That is who you are and what you are. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Other email, we will continue our mini segment of Rob's small group reflections. I won't give you the backstory on it, but we're on week 4 of 5 in the mailbag. Rob describing different types of small groups that he has been in. Most of these negative, as Rob was living a double life and felt like small groups were a place where he never had to expose his real life because they were very superficial and shallow. So let's see where this one goes today. Number 4 out of 5, the bar setter. Most groups cook on an electric stove at medium heat until one guy has the courage to turn up the temp to reach a boiling point. It's the courage of one that often breaks the door wide open for guys to feel safe and talk about real struggles and create intentionality within these common church constructs. This is where grace thrives and community starts to take shape. The desire to follow through, love, and support. I'm trying to figure out a typo here. Oh, we'll skip it. Maybe and support or thrive. There we go. The desire to follow through, love, support, or thrive. Although less common, it only takes one to be a bar setter. Boom. So that's some redemptive stuff from Rob. The first three were pretty negative. The first three were, here's ways that I contributed to my group being superficial, shallow, and here's just some superficial, shallow cultural tendencies of small groups. Number 4, the bar setter, and this is something I've talked about frequently when talking about small groups and vulnerability in general. You can be that bar setter that Rob describes. You raise the temperature of your group. People typically will respond. It's typically attractive. Maybe that's the wrong word. It's typically contagious, where you just shared all that stuff. People want to support you in that. And now all of a sudden, there's a different mood in the room. There's a different atmosphere in the room. So I want to continue to encourage you to be that person, whether it's in your church small group, whether it's in your one-on-one relationships, or whatever it may be. I got to tell you, the church as a whole, we are super shallow. The church is broken. You know, the church is Jesus' bride, and we want to honor the church. We are the church. The church is us. But one of our biggest weaknesses, the church, is superficiality, just not going deep, not showing our wounds, not showing our brokenness. You see it in sermons. You see it in small groups. We talk about surface level things. We talk about kind of the same old, I guess it's good news messages, but that don't go into the depths of what we actually deal with on a regular basis. So I do hope the flip side can be a place that takes you as a listener and then equips you to go into your community, to take others to places of deeper vulnerability where the gospel can really meet us. So that's actually a good segue as we transition to talk about sort of the topic of the day and going deeper and going vulnerable. I'm going to kind of share some of where I've been at recently with that, and hopefully it'll help you. So that was my little water drinking delay there. Haven't made my TV commercials yet. Radio commercials. Still plan to do that one of these days so we can live stream and have commercials to take breaks. That'll be fun. Not quite there yet. Not quite there. Talking about ways, what I want to talk about is ways that we try to feel whole, loved, or valuable. And I use different words because I think different words are going to relate to different people, but I want you to think about the ways that you strive, and some of these are healthy, sort of. I should say it this way. When I say the thing, it doesn't mean the thing in and of itself is bad. So money or relationships, those aren't bad things. Like, you see what I'm saying? Other things are bad. If you were using cocaine to make yourself feel whole, I mean, right, that's bad. Cocaine, it's bad. And I don't mean to make light of that if that's a struggle of yours. I just mean, I want to preface this by saying there's lots of ways that we try to make ourselves feel whole, feel loved, feel valuable, feel approved. Some of them, the essence of them, like pornography, is a direct sin. Some of them, the essence of them, like marriage, for example, it's not a sin, obviously. Marriage is good. But the idolatry of it, when we look towards that thing to make us feel whole and to make us feel valuable, at that point, it's all on the same playing field. At that point, it's all idolatry. And I'm gonna talk more about it. I'm gonna lead with just the way I've seen this in my life recently. So if you've read Beyond the Battle, my book, this is a primary truth in the book, if not the primary truth. The idea that for guys, and this would be the same for women, the other way around, but it's a book to guys saying what you're looking for from women, whether that's fantasy whether it's discontentment in your singleness or your marriage, whether it's pornography, whatever it might be, lust, that's ultimately something you could only find in Jesus. You're looking to feel whole. Like you want this woman or this fantasy of this woman to make you feel whole, to make you feel accepted. And the book walks through, and we'll get there today as well, and many of these podcast episodes have walked through how Jesus, being whole in him, but he fully accepts you. I talk about Colossians 1:22 a lot, that when the Father looks at you because of Jesus and Jesus' death on the cross for you and his resurrection from the dead, the Father sees you as holy, 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 which means perfect, perfect, without blemish, free from accusation, fully accepted, fully loved, fully whole. When we can begin to experience that love in a real level, then the emptiness inside of us, the incompleteness inside of us gets filled up, and then we don't strive for it in these other places as if we need that thing to be complete because we're already complete. And when you write a book like that, there's two types of extremes that are two examples where sometimes I don't want to be real with people because I want people to know what I wrote is true and it works. And what if I were to go around back at square one and here I'm struggling in all these ways and my insecurity again with women, and I'm struggling in all these things. Well, it kind of says then that nothing in the book worked or stuck because the authors succumbed to all these sorts of things. And frankly, I think there's some truth to that. I think that if you write a book about this sort of thing, sexual purity, I think for the book, the content of the book to have weight, I think to a degree it has to work. It has to work in your life, and you shouldn't be teaching and preaching people how to not look at porn if you're looking at porn. I think it's not to say, I don't know. Yeah, I don't want you to think as a listener that if you're looking at porn, you should feel shame or not talk to somebody about it, or if I was, that I wouldn't go and talk to somebody about it. But I think it would change the way I was a leader. It would change the way maybe I would take a break from trying to help people because I would need to help myself at that point. But I think the other side of the coin that I want to talk about is this. What I've noticed in my life is this emptiness. It's not unique just to sexual sin. And so I don't want it to, with sexual sin, like I've got it all figured out, because I don't. I do think I am mature in many ways compared to certainly where I was, and I am in a position where I can help others. I still have temptations for sure, and I have ways I have to continue applying these principles to my life. It's more of a lifelong, it's like working out. It's a lifelong workout where you have to keep doing it, not in a legalistic, behavioral-based sort of way, but to continue soaking and feeding off Jesus. You have to eat your 3 meals a day, or you're going to get hungry again. It's not a one-time cure, forget about it the rest of your life. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm still on that journey, and hopefully getting stronger and stronger as I go, and have some ups and downs along the way. But zooming out even from the sexual conversation, excuse me, what I'm noticing in my life, and I've noticed this for a long time, I've blogged about some of these things before, but I'm observing the same symptom in other areas of my life. It's quite frustrating. So I'm in, and I think you'll relate to some of these things as well. I'm in this new job, and I like my job. I like the people I work with, and I intentionally took a job that I wasn't going to be in senior pastor type of leadership. I intentionally took a job where I wasn't going to be looked at as a senior leader. I wasn't going to have that load and responsibility on my shoulders. Some of that was healing and recovering from 13 years of inner city church planting and really taking my adrenaline and risk and burnout levels really to the extreme, to the edge, almost over the edge, and needing some time to recover from that. But also I was 22 years old when we started the church plant. That's really young to be a senior pastor. And I did that all the way through, I guess I was age 35 when I stepped down from that senior pastor or senior leader level role. We did do some governmental structural stuff to try to help with that earlier and the titles and whatnot. But the senior leadership level role and that responsibility, stepped down from that at age 35. And what God showed to me was you need some time to be under some older pastors. And you need some time to be in a established church where you can learn some systems rather than really the only church experience outside of a short year and a half where I was a youth pastor. The only church experience I had was my own as far as how to create systems. I'm not good at that stuff. And it was the only systems I had were mine. So that's how I ended up where I am. And I'm thankful for where I am. It's God's, not just God's will, but God told me to do this. God told me to be where I am, to be a better leader, both now and in the future, to be a more mature Christian, both now and in the future, to refine some of my strengths so that most of our strengths have a shadow side that go along with them. Mine certainly no exception. And I want to be a leader where my strengths can shine without that shadow side hurting people around me. And so that's the work that God is doing in me. And I guess this shouldn't be a surprise. I don't think it would be a surprise to people that know me well, but it's been harder than I thought to sit and listen and not be in leadership and not be preaching every week specifically. And there's been some cool stuff with God doing his work in me of even refining and bringing lots of clarity to here's where your gifts are, here's where you really come alive. And not, so again, I'm being vulnerable on this podcast, but I recognize it's a public channel, and I want to be really, in my honesty, respectful and thankful, really thankful for the job that I'm in. And I even talked about this in my interview, how this is something God has for me. There were churches, I mean, nothing major. I don't want to give you the wrong idea. I wasn't being recruited by, some whatever mega church to come be their preacher, but there were some churches, people that I knew, people locally that had openings or knew of openings of senior pastor positions, and man, you should come, you'd be great. And I just said, no, that's not what God has for me right now. And so what's been, I guess I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting that it is hard for me to sit and listen to other people preach. And the only good news is it's not unique to one person, because I had an interim job for a little while earlier this year. It felt the same there. It feels the same in the job I'm in now. And there's multiple people teaching and preaching. Some of that, I readily admit it's on me. It's on me. Like, I should be able to sit and listen to someone preach. And some of it is style. It's I don't want to get into all of it. What I say by style is there's people I can listen to preach, and I don't want you to get the idea that I can't listen to anybody preach. I have this major character flaw, which is so funny when we become vulnerable. I want to preface it all because I don't want you to think when I was joking about my gums before, yeah, I can't brush my teeth back there, so no, I was saying I had to have the gum surgery. I jokingly needed to preface it that, yes, I do brush my teeth, right? So here I'm kind of not jokingly prefacing it by saying, I am able to listen to someone preach. I'm not that, unteachable or arrogant. But at the same time, I am unteachable and arrogant. And I hate that about myself. And I'm just going with it here. So don't quote me or judge me on the things I'm saying. I'm working through it. I'm in process of working through it. But when there's a type of you're messed up that we kind of admire, even sometimes it depends on the context, but you can share about vulnerabilities and people can say, wow, you're really humble. Wow, you're really vulnerable. I don't feel that way about this sort of messed up because this feels so involuntary. it really frustrates me. And I have mentors in my life that have to remind me, what you're experiencing is normal. You're human. You're not a jerk. You're not a fill in the blank word. I don't know. We use different words to describe a person like that we may or may not agree on what's appropriate language-wise to say. So I'll leave it there. But reminding me that though I'm struggling with these things, and frankly, how about this? Struggling with jealousy, and I didn't expect that. And the irony is, I still don't want to be in one of those positions. I fully recognize the amount of work and stress it takes to mine out in a great sermon every 7 days. I fully understand and have experienced for many, many, many years the intense spotlight of being in senior leadership and how you get people are mad at you. You make decisions that you think are best and people question your character. No, I'm not in a position like that. Nobody's questioning my character. I'm questioning my own, but nobody's offended and upset and gossiping about me right now. And I want to enjoy that. I literally, if you came to me and said, here's a job where you'd be preaching and casting vision, I would say, no, it's not the season I'm in. I want to go back to school. I want to do a PhD. That's going to be a ton of work. I need a job that has margin in it. All I'm saying is this. So I say all that to say, you gotta give me some grace and understanding. Even if you can't relate to how I'm wired, I don't expect you to. Not everyone's wired like me. Some of you are. We're crazy. And many times it's an 8 on the Enneagram or just someone who's very driven. You don't have to necessarily be an 8. But if you can give me some understanding and benefit of the doubt in that I was used to for 13 years, just become conditioned to being in charge, to preaching. Certainly super draining, but there's also a rush that comes with that. There's an amount of attention that you get from that. Being needed, the whole Sunday morning service, especially at a smaller church, sort of, it kind of revolves around you. I mean, here comes the sermon, and to not have that, it is very weird feeling. So if you're an athlete, it would be like if you had a 13-year pro career and then you retired or you got cut from the team or whatever it was, and you're showing up in the stands now and you're watching the game, or you're, maybe you're a manager now on the sideline, or, possibly an assistant coach or something like that. But the feeling is so different than being out there on the field, being the quarterback, throwing the ball, calling the plays, doing those sorts of things. And that's a bit of what I feel. And so when you start feeling things like that in your own life, in your own context, jealousy, arrogance, whatever it might be, that's a time to talk to some mentors, but to spend some time with the Lord and ask him, God, what is going on in my soul right now? What is going on in my heart? Where is this stuff coming from? And as I began to do that, I've begun to notice that same appetite that I write about in Beyond the Battle that I just described a few minutes ago to you, that appetite that I really am wired inside of me, my brokenness, my broken nature is wired for wanting approval. I'm really wired for wanting to be accepted and told that I'm valuable and those sorts of things. And for me, while I'm not seeking those things out through sexual sin like I've done in my past, there's a void there where those things used to be filled by a certain type of ministry position, and they're not being filled there anymore. And there's serious healing work. I would be phrasing it wrong to say that I need to do, because I don't do the healing. But let me say it this way, there's serious work that I need to do to put myself before the healer, who's Jesus, and his love to heal the brokenness that's in me. Brokenness I didn't really know. I mean, I knew it was there. I shouldn't say that. I knew it was there, but it was brokenness that was being, I can't think of the word, but it was temporarily being satisfied, sort of patched over. We kind of wallpapered over the hole, if that makes sense, because of the ministry sort of rush of leading and doing that type of ministry for so long. And now that wallpaper's gone, and now the hole's just there, and there's all this breeze going through the hole. And okay, Jesus, help, because the thing I was leaning on isn't there anymore. And as I've observed my life, it's sad to me the many ways that I struggle with this. For many years, I was waiting on a book deal. I had an agent and wanted so bad the rush of getting that book deal and the rush of really being told I was valuable. And if you go into the archives of my blog, you'll find a blog I did when I finally decided to independently publish the book. And it's pretty vulnerable about that I was kind of embarrassed to have to independently publish, and talking about how I wasn't going to get that rush. I wasn't going to get that fix, that hit. That's what I'm looking for. I wasn't going to get that hit of approval and that hit of validation from, oh, you got that book deal. You got that book deal from a traditional publisher. And so people are going to look at your book like it's not as good, or you're not as good, more specifically. But I see it right now. We're trying to sell a rental house that we had in Lansing. It was a ministry house. I think I shared this a little bit on episode 15 when we made the move, just how stressful it was renovating it. We had some tenants that were from our church, just destroyed it. We were trying to help them. Pretty dysfunctional situation. Anyway, the house has been vacant now for a year. We renovated it for super, super long time. But now it's been up for sale for, I think, since September. I don't remember exactly. September, October, November, December. So 3-4 months, something like that, maybe 3 months. And it's not selling. We found out it's now in a floodplain. That's just a total deal breaker for people. You have to pay flood insurance. We never had to pay flood insurance on the house, so something changed in the 9 years that we owned it. So we just had these expectations. We thought we were going to make some money on the house. We put a ton of money into the renovations, thinking we were going to make, because it needed it. It wasn't because we were trying to make it Beverly Hills. I mean, it needed it. It was so ratty and dumpy. So we're expecting to get some of that money back. We're not going to get that money back. Every month that we own the house now, we pay out $600 towards the mortgage, utilities, insurance, taxes. $600 we're never going to see again. And it hasn't had a tenant for a year. So you just do the math. And so we're in a spot where you pray and it's not selling. And so the answer then is God's trying to teach us to not be reliant on our financial security for our security, but to rely on Him, and that he just to trust Him, and that we're going to lose money, and that's okay. Think, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. You're going to lose money. We're going to lose money, and having to be okay with that. But the angst inside of me for when is it going to sell? Like, I can't have peace until it sells. When is it going to sell? When is it going to sell? That's one of those things on the radar. I mean, of saying, God, there's something in my heart. There's a hole there, because I really want this to happen. I'm looking at going back to seminary. I'm going to be doing a PhD, and I have to do some credits in advance. And I've noticed just really small things. I'll email a professor, or I'll email an admissions office, and they don't email me back right away. They don't email me back in 2 days or 3 days, or it might just be someone I want to hear back from on a project I'm trying to initiate, and I don't hear back from them. And inside of me, I'm frustrated that I haven't heard back, and I really want to hear back on these really small things. It would be hard to even identify that as approval or validation. There's something about the completion of it that I must have for there to be peace. And it's the same sickness. There's something deeply amiss inside of me. And then with my new job is working with young adults, approximately ages 18 through 35, mostly 18 through 29, around that age. And I'm 30. I'll be 37 in a couple weeks. And for me, when I got out of college, I never had a really season of ambiguity. I started at age 21 in my full-time job. I was married at age 21. And that's not the case for most people. And I think some of that way back then, which it kind of was now, that was, goodness, 18, no, I don't know how many, 15, 16 years ago, something like that. I think things are a little bit different now for this generation, where for many different variables, there's more of a season of kind of floating and struggling. And with that, there's depression that sets in, and trying to figure out what I want to do for my career. And so doing a lot of counseling with people in that age group, and you might be listening, you might be in that age group. So some in that age group, early 20s, mid 20s, they've done steps, the right steps, so to speak, to get to their career. They've gotten to their career, they don't like it. And others, they haven't done the steps, but they still want the career, which that's another topic, or I'm not talking about that right now, but it relates to this. It relates that in both the situations, there's an idol that is glistening. It's the idol of career. And if you only had the right career, then you'd have this peace. You'd feel this wholeness inside of you. Many in that age group, and I think this transcends all age groups, but I think particularly in your 20s and in your 30s, if you're single, just really struggling with that singleness, struggling with the rejection you've experienced in the past, the fear of, hey, I'm getting older, the clock's ticking, and if I want to get married or have a family, that may not ever happen. I'm looked at by my family, by my culture, by myself as being rejected, of being something's wrong with me. If I was worthy, then I would have found somebody, and all these sort of deep wrestlings where that relationship glistens like a gold idol, of saying, if only I had that, then I would be okay. And so I'm bearing my heart to you of struggling with those idols, and for the most part involuntary. It's not choosing, like some sins, I'm going to go do this sin. It's just there. And I found a lot of peace in just confessing it. Just I've got a little patch of woods across the street from our house. And I was out there yesterday, just in the snow, just talking to God and just confessing. This is in my heart, God. I don't want it in my heart. It's an emptiness. I know you love me. I know you're enough for me. I know you're sufficient. I know I don't need the accolades that come from preaching, or the attention that come, or the this or the that. You in your situation, you could say, I know I don't need this relationship to feel whole. I'm already whole in you, Jesus. I don't need this career to make me feel whole. I'm already whole in you, Jesus. But just confessing to Jesus and saying, I'm not there. I know that that's true. And not even fix me now, like make me feel your love now, but saying, I just confess. I confess I don't want this in my life. I repent of it. That's all I can do right now. That seems to be the only thing I have the power to do, because the rest of it all seems very involuntary. And as I was doing that, I felt some real peace from Jesus, that he still loved me, that he's trying to get me to see that in fact is what his love is. That in fact, that's what Colossians 1:22 means. It doesn't mean when you're cleaned up and when you're all pretty and you have everything fixed, then he loves you and sees you as holy, without blemish, and free from accusation, and then he'll love you, and then he'll put you on his lap, and then he'll hold you in his arms. But he felt that way about me yesterday as I'm struggling with jealousy and arrogance and insecurity. And some of you might bristle against that. I know I used to when I first heard this sort of message. And I'm not even going to go down that road right now. I've done that before, and we can talk about that again, that sin is serious and God sees sin. And I'm not going down that road right now. When we're in Christ, when you're in Christ, when you're saved by his grace, he loves you. You could never, ever clean yourself up enough to be worthy of that love. You could never conjure it up in you. You could never even do enough therapy, and therapy's really good. And counseling and mentoring, you could never do enough to get it fixed and to get it all figured out. And to be able to confess and to know that he loves you and he loves me in the midst of being super messed up and discontent and frustrated and in sin and being so attracted to idols. And just admitting and confessing, I love the hit that I get from a lot of likes on a Facebook post, or more people following me on social media, or the hope of getting a book published. And there's human nature to some of those things that I'm not saying it's a sin to get a book published, but there's an idolatry to the glistening of it. It's not a sin to be in a satisfying career, but there's an idolatry to the glistening of it that when I have that, it's my drug and I need it and it makes me whole. So I want to wrap up with this. I want to go back to my gum surgery that I was joking about earlier. But in all seriousness, it reminded me Friday, I was in dizzying pain, literally just dizzying pain. During the surgery, they shot me up with 3 shots in the mouth. You know, they numb it and stuff. But man, the first 3 shots, they have you inhale in. The first person had me inhale in while they shot the shot in my mouth. And I felt like I took it like a champ. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It kind of felt like a little sting. And I thought, yeah, you got this. You got this. You kind of went in with the inhale and it was fine. And then they were poking me around and said, "Do you feel this?" And I could still feel the poking. So they said, "Okay, we gotta give you more." I was like, "Whatever, it's already half numb. It'll be fine." I don't know what it was. It was a different person that gave the next round of shots. It was 3 more shots in the same area. They didn't have me do the inhale in. I don't know what it was, but let me tell you, that was like lightning in my mouth. It hurt super bad, especially the last shot. It felt like they just left it all up in my business and were just shooting more and more pain into my mouth, and they didn't take the needle out. It hurt super bad. But that wasn't even the dizzying part, because right, eventually you numb and you don't feel it from there. But I'm driving to pick up my prescription for an antibiotic and a ibuprofen, for the swelling and the pain and stuff, and I start feeling really messed up, just in a ton of pain. And I get home and I take the ibuprofen and I'm not functional. My head hurts super bad. I grab a ice pack. I go up to bed and I put the ice pack on my face and I lay on it. I took the ibuprofen and I'm sitting there. And look, I know this is temporary. I know this is going to go away. It reminded me, though, it put me in a spot of talking to Jesus, and it reminded me of theology of suffering. It reminded me that there are people that experience this type of pain 24/7. They have a chronic illness where their body is always racked with this type of pain. It reminded me of people that live in slums in Haiti or Kenya. It reminded me of people that live in destitute poverty in the United States. It reminded me of refugees. It reminded me of immigrants and the suffering and the injustice that they face on a daily basis. And I'm going to write a blog about this here soon, so you can stay tuned to that. And I'm not going to get into all of the theology of suffering here, but how it related to this topic was when my circumstances are bleak, am I able to rest and be nourished in the truth of God's completing love for me? What I mean by God's completing love is that his love completes me. It completes you. When my circumstances are bleak and my head is just throbbing, Jesus, are you enough? Is what you gave me enough in that moment? And what if that moment never changes? And there's certain pains in my life, and if they didn't ever change, guys, I'm just being real with you. It does not feel like Jesus would be enough. And I'm ashamed to say that. And all I can do is confess that to him. And even now I can sense him saying, I still love you that much. I still love you that much. And that does bring me peace. But when our circumstances are bleak, when the career isn't there, when the relationship isn't there, when the book deal isn't there, when that hit of approval and validation and satisfaction, when that thing that I really, really want isn't there, can I picture, can I still experience his love, and is his love enough? And as I was feeling some of that jealousy recently, and I'm journaling through it with the Holy Spirit, I wrote down, as I was journaling with the Holy Spirit, I wrote down looking at wanting that sort of attention again, and that rush again. But knowing that I have the love that I have in Jesus. I have this immeasurable love that I don't deserve. I'm so broken. I'm on Mount Sinai, Exodus 19. I deserve death. I can't even be in God's presence. And yet he just showers me with his love, and so much love and so much mercy and so much grace. And it completes me, and it makes me whole. As I'm journaling, I wrote down, this would be like Bill Gates needing to sell used shoes on eBay to make some money. Why would Bill Gates sell used shoes on eBay to make some money? The dude is one of the richest dudes in the world. He doesn't need to sell used shoes on eBay to make some money. And as I'm reflecting on how much love the Father has bestowed on me through Jesus, and how the Father loves me, how Jesus loves me, and I'm looking at used shoes that I need to sell to make some money when I have all that love that I already have, right? You feel what I'm saying? And even in that, the struggle didn't go away. But can you picture Jesus's first century hands? I think sometimes the Father is a little abstract to us. It's 2019, almost 2020. We can't see God. The Bible even calls him the invisible God. But Jesus walked the earth. You can go to Israel. You can walk where he walked. You can sit where he sat. You can see tombs that maybe were his. Can you picture the first century Jesus? I picture him holding my head, my face, just cupping a hand on each cheek. I'm like, Jesus, one of those is a little puffy right now. Be careful. But just holding my face and saying, I love you, Noah. The way he held a leper, the way he touched a leper, the way he brought a leper into him and said, I love you, and I'm going to make you whole. Can you picture Jesus loving you in that way? Do you have a daily practice of experiencing God's love like that? A daily practice of experiencing God's love in this way. And all this vulnerability, really confession, I'm confessing to you guys and before the Lord, all this confession, it leads me back to that place of saying we can never stop doing this. This is not a one-time sermon. And frankly, you don't hear this stuff in sermons nearly enough, because this is what we need. This is the healing love that we need. If you like some of this stuff and you want more podcasts, if the flip side isn't enough, if you're not getting enough episodes, check out my friend Kevin Butcher's podcast called Rooted the podcast. Look up those 3 words, Rooted the podcast, ROOTED, like True Roots. And he talks about this stuff a ton. And Kevin's awesome. He's one of my mentors, and I interviewed him on this podcast a little while ago. But do you have a daily practice where you can experience this type of healing love in God's presence? And sometimes it takes God revealing to us, you still really need this. Look at that hole in your wall. Look at the jealousy in your life. Look at how much you want that career. Look at the porn you keep going to. Look at the sex you keep pursuing outside of marriage. There's a hole in you, and you're trying to fill it with all these idols. Why is it so hard when they don't email you back right away? Why is that so unsettling to your sense of inner peace? When people don't comment on your Facebook post or your Instagram post, and you're checking it all the time, is somebody gonna love me? Is somebody gonna give me a heart? Sometimes that's the Holy Spirit. I think almost always it's the Holy Spirit, if we're listening, saying, son, daughter, that hole, it's there. Do you have a daily time to experience that love from Jesus, his healing love, where we can just be broken before him? And maybe that's where he's taking me, is to a place of, no, dude, you're still really broken. It's that paradigm. It's 2 at once, where we're made whole in him. And yet we have to take our brokenness before him continually, so that he can continue to make us whole in him. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you in what it is you're dealing with, what it is you're struggling with. I just wanted to take a second to be real with you, because I think that's where just a lot of us are at. I think that's where a lot of us are at. I'd love to hear from you. I'm not sure I even mentioned this during the mailbag segment, but you can always mail in goofy stuff like John did. That was awesome. podcast@beyondthebattle.net. But if you want to interact, I'd love more interaction on this stuff, and just kind of how this sits with you. What from this talk today, if for lack of a better term, from this episode, what was helpful for you? What stuff are you struggling with? What are the specific things you're dealing with? And can we talk about that a little bit? So that'll wrap up sort of the topic of the day. I'm at about an hour right now. I am going to be late to my meeting because, of course, we can't finish without Noah's rant. I mean, duh. There's no meeting that's that important that we have to get to and skip out on Noah's rant, right? So, in typical Flipside fashion, let's go from bearing our soul before each other and the Lord and in near tears to Noah's rant.
Noah's rant.
All right, guys. So for real, how many times have you been on the phone, on hold, all the time, and you hear this message? Please listen carefully, for our options have recently changed. Please listen carefully to the following options, for our options have recently changed, or some derivative of that message. Let me ask you this. That is not true, okay? There's no way that 80% of the businesses I call, and these are huge businesses with, it could be the city, you're calling the city you live in, and you're getting the options they have. You're calling your cable company. These are not mom and pop shops who are always changing things like a church plant would and fixing things. These are massive corporations with massive infrastructure, and people's full-time jobs are to be. Those places are not always fixing their. Please listen carefully. For our options have changed. Please listen to all 9 of our options, because they change. We change them every week. We get bored around here, so we have nothing better to do. So what we do is we change our options. It's fun. We have a wheel like you'd have on the Price is Right, and we just spin it, and whatever option comes up, hey, which option will talking to a salesperson be? Let's just spin the wheel. Oh, number 4 today. Bam! Punch that in as number 4. Which option will tech support be? Let's spin the wheel. Oh, option 9 today. Boom! And you call back tomorrow and you're like, hey, listen up, everybody. It's game show time. Our options have changed because we love changing our options around. Listen very carefully. Here's what I love. Often they will say this: beware. Please beware. Our options have changed. Like, really, beware? I have to be. Beware is like I'm going into a haunted house. I need to beware. Beware is I'm walking down a dark alley in the middle of the inner city. Then I need to beware. I don't think I need to beware that your options have changed when I'm calling to get my cell phone plan fixed or whatever the option may be. I hope that gets you fired up the way it gets me fired up. No, I hope it doesn't. You have issues if that bothers you like it bothers me, because I have issues. But look, Noah's Rant exists to make the world a better place, people. And that is what Noah's Rant is doing. We are making the world a better place. For all of you companies listening, and I know you are, I know you're listening to the episode today, please stop doing that. We don't need to hear you waste 8 seconds of our time telling us the options have changed, and you're lying. Jesus is listening. You're lying. You did not just change the options. You're just saying that to try to get our attention and try to get us to pay, and it doesn't work. It just makes me mad. I don't want to pay attention. So stop. Make the world a better place. Stop annoying everybody. Stop saying you're changing your option, because you're not. So there, don't lie. We need to rid the world of sin. That's what we're doing. So there you go. That wraps up episode 22. Wasn't it grand? This was a good time. Flip-eponymouses. I want to try to make that plural, like octopi. Flip-eponopi. I got to work on that because I don't know what that even sounds like yet. But I do want to remind you, don't forget the survey. NoahFilipiak.com/survey. I need to hear from you. I'm going to start threatening you. There's not going to be a podcast until you fill out the survey. NoahFilipiak.com/survey.
The Flip Side with Noah Filipiak is a South Francis Press production. Copyright Noah Filipiak. www.noahfilipiak.com. Theme music by Kyle Lake at K-Lake Music. Used with permission. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or wherever podcasts are found.
Souls needing revivals, what I do? Influence like the cup full of that Bombay. Kelly's to them Tom Hanks, Lexus to them Andres. Hoping they check it, my inner reverence, stressing for leverage. That they see the king's tracks on the pavement leading to heaven. Yow, dripping in that gold that don't perish. People selling fake, see the green around their belly. Aching refuge in his hand, see his palms, my living quarters. Close them when I'm finished, it's time to bring me closer. There's no purgatory, cause you're in or you're out. When you see him in the clouds, you know it's going down. Raise them. They've been sleeping for some ages. Now all God's babies so confused by this hatred. Pulpit preachers shouldn't aim to be A-list. Money probably long, but short is what your days. Have you ever heard the sound of freedom? Have you ever heard the sound of freedom? Have you ever heard the sound of freedom? Tripping upon the premise, see lyrics painting the image, pointing to redemption to the one who got them splinters. Cause that cross is nothing pretty. So why the beauty pageants and caught up in emotions and following your passions? Talking that freedom, all people need them more than an Easter or coffee shop discussions, debating over baristas. Please, sir, this is why we inked up. Even when they do the autopsy, they still see him. Freedom coming quickly. Bars from the spirit. Put it through the preamp and mix it like a chemist. Put it in the airwaves and hoping that they hear it. If there's some confusion, then I hope you see him clearly. Raise them. They've been sleeping for some ages. Now all God's babies so confused by this hatred. Pulpit preachers shouldn't aim to be A-list. Money probably long, but sure is